when you do your grocery shopping, take a deep breath at some point because you may not need to buy it just because it's there. Balancing a well-stocked pantry can mean the difference between managing the food that you will cook or just storing your frozen money. And there are at least 5 benefits of having a good pantry plan, and I'm going to show you how to get them today on the Carefree Cooks Code. I'm Chef Todd Moore, and this is the Carefree Cooks Code, every Tuesday live at noon Eastern. Here's our challenge. How can home cooks cook freely with creativity, confidence, and pride while ignoring recipes and still impressing themselves and others with what they cook? Well, the answer is found in becoming empowered with how cooking works, using dependable and repeatable methods of cooking that work for any ingredient, for any diet, and any desire, just like chefs do. And we'll know we've cracked it when everyone sees cooking as an exciting and rewarding way to improve their relationships, their lifestyles, and their health through better food and cooking. This is the Carefree Cooks Code. Hey, welcome back to the Carefree Cooks Code, everyone. This is the weekly show for the methods, the techniques, and the insights into better food and cooking. And we're, of course, live every Tuesday at noon Eastern. And you can find all my past videos in the archive on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/chef.todd.more/videos. Not all the videos I've ever done. That gets well over 1,000. No, they're not all there. But these shows, nonetheless, if you want to see what we're doing, what I cooked and how I cooked it when we're not live together, you can follow Chef Todd Moore on Instagram as well. Did you see this? Almost speaking Spanish. Did you see the gazpacho from Saturday? Loosely translated gazpacho. It's a cold tomato soup made the way that I want to make it. The amount of hate mail that I got from Spaniards was another story, but I enjoyed it. Served it with shrimp salad. Nonetheless, you can go to Instagram as well. How do you do it, Chef Todd? Well, let me tell you, me and thousands of others, we're carefree cooks. We create our own recipes. We bring our friends and family together. We learn every time we cook. We create our own cooking style. How does this happen? Because we practice pro methods and we wind up loving our cooking. That's the credo of a carefree cook. And, you know, if you... The last year or so, if you ever thought that things were limitless, like the types and the quantity of the food that you can buy, or maybe the amount of money that you can spend on food, or how about the space that you have in your house to store all this food, you might realize that 3 of those, if not every one of those, is not possible. Maybe one of them is limitless for you. Maybe you have a pantry closet in your house that looks like a mini warehouse club, okay? But I know money is not a limitless commodity for any of us. So we're going to put some common sense, some pro-level skills on managing your pantry today. But first, I've got a what am I for you. Here it is. Tell me in the comments section below, what do you get when you cross a plum with an apricot? Okay, I'll give it to you. I don't think you can identify it just on that picture. When you cross a plum with an apricot, what do you get? Tell me in the comments section below, and I'll tell you what am I at the end of the Carefree Cooks Code today. So, oh my goodness, I'm so glad we're together again. I think I say that every Tuesday, but it's honest. I'm glad we're together again because this helps us each work on our own personal cooking journeys toward becoming a truly carefree cook. And I always look forward to these Tuesday classes because we can challenge ourselves. This is what I think my purpose is to challenge you to think differently than the widely accepted ways. Cooking has been taught all wrong almost since the beginning that cooking was ever taught. It just has been taught all wrong. So we need to ask ourselves new questions. We need to challenge the old ideas. We need to experiment for ourselves, but most importantly, witness these answers, right? Witness the things that we don't immediately accept because That's the way it's always been done, right? I hate that more than anything else. I hate that answer. Why do you do that? Well, that's the way it's always been done. When I ask somebody, or somebody tells me, like in culinary school, why do you do it that way? Oh, that's the way it's always been done. Well, when somebody says that to me, I see an opportunity to find a new and better way to do something. I don't ever accept that's the way it's always been done. That just means we need a new way. It's old and stale, right? And you might think, or you might feel the same way about this. You might be here on this Carefree Cooks Code class today because you're not sure how to make an Alfredo sauce or a tomato sauce or make anything like your mom or grandma did, but you don't have to make it like your mom or grandma did. All you need to do is be curious. Become a carefree cook. Be able to make your own Alfredo sauce that then one of your grandkids are going to try and figure out how you did it many years from now, right? Carefree cooking is something that you pass on to the next generation. Recipes don't pass on to the next generation. Skills do. It's something that you can do together. It challenges your mind better than a Sudoku puzzle, right? It builds confidence in you, your kids, your grandkids, way more than like running a marathon. You do that one day. Not to disparage people that run 26 miles, but cooking generates creativity faster than learning how to paint. And these skills you have for a lifetime. Plus, Sudoku puzzles, they don't taste very good. So cooking would be better. But the really cool thing about working toward breaking the Carefree Cooks Code is that we all get to take this journey together. Maybe for different reasons, right? But at least we all march together on this toward improving our lifestyles through better food and cooking, through strengthening our relationships through better food and cooking. You start to put these pieces of the puzzle together and then you're carefree. But here's the thing, one of the greatest benefits of being a carefree cook is that you can cook for any diet or any desire using the dependable and repeatable methods that chefs are taught in culinary school. But that means that you can just reach into your pantry, grab a whole bunch of random ingredients, be confident in how you're going to cook them, and just whip up something great. So cooking from your pantry is a really hot topic right now. And glad to hear that, because that just means they're all catching up to us. We've been talking about this since 2008. So I'm glad it took them 12 or 13 years. I started teaching pantry management in my own cooking school in 2006. Nobody heard of pantry management. I've taught this class on the college level dozens of times as well, because the truth that comes from all these classes is that if you want to cook from your pantry, you need to understand what's in your pantry. You need to manage the space and the money there while still having what you need to cook. The whole idea behind pantry management is not to have a mini grocery store in your own house. A pantry is the ingredients that you keep on hand because you're going to cook something from them, not because you're going to store them. There's great skill in balancing a well-stocked pantry, having the items that you need on hand to whip up your meals quickly, versus creating a mausoleum of food. Stacks of cans that will never see the light of day. And today's topic is one that I'm asked about all the time. I get Facebook and email questions like, Chef Todd, what type of pantry items should I keep on hand at all times? Chef Todd, what are the best ingredients to have in my kitchen? Chef Todd, what's in your panties? What? Oh my God, that's an autocorrect. What's in your pantry? See? I mean, please proofread your messages and your questions before you hit send, or I might get a really weird question like, what's in your panties? I know they meant pantry, right? So you want to know what's in my pantry? I've thought a lot about this topic, and I've had a lot of trouble trying to get it straight in my mind sometimes, because I don't want to sit here and just read you a list of food items that you should have in your kitchen. It's not just a list. Ultimately, you have to decide what to keep in your panties, your pantry. Now you got me doing it. All right, look, please read your messages before you send them to me. It gets in my head. Look, I don't know what kind of flavor combinations that you like in your household. I don't know what kind of ethnic or regional influences you have in your cooking. I don't know what you like to eat. These are all things that are entirely up to you. You need to decide. I don't keep sardines in my pantry. I don't know, you may love sardines, right? But I have 4 kinds of mustard in my refrigerator right now. That could be 3 kinds too much for you. I could give you some generalities today, but these things, these are the things that most people keep on hand. But it's up to you to make the changes that you want for your particular diet desires, what your family needs. So reading a long list of ingredients might be kind of educational, but it's going to be really boring, and I don't like to be boring. So since I'm trying to bring you the secrets taught in culinary college, the techniques that professionals use there that you can steal in your own home, I want you to think of this the same way I tell my culinary students. I want you to think about your pantry as a food vault. That's the way I always thought about it when I was ordering food for a large hospital, which I have done. I used to buy $1.5 million worth of food per month when I was the executive chef at a large hospital. $1.5 million a month. That's a lot of food to keep track of, right? And we had a very large pantry, this huge room. We used forklifts to put the food away, to put them up on shelves, right? We even had a pantry steward. There's a guy, his job was to fulfill requisitions for food and keep the inventory. You can't just go in and grab the food. You have to requisition it from the steward, from the pantry steward. And this guy, as I recall, oh my goodness, what a pain in the butt he was. A little general. You know, he has this little power base. I was the one buying all the food as the executive chef, but he controlled and distributed it. So I had to go ask him for my own food. what I just spent $1.5 million for. And it was always like going to talk to the troll under the bridge, right? My line cooks would ask me for food, and I'd say, go talk to the troll, right? And there was a little half door that you had to go up to. So they'd go over to the pantry entrance, and they go, hey, Joe, can I get a case of canned tomatoes? And I imagine it was like, oh, you must riddle me this first. What? What has wings but does not fly? What lays but not down? And what is afraid of everything? You ask me this every time I come to get tomatoes. It's a chicken. All right, Joe, it's a chicken. Now just give me the damn tomatoes. The guy was like a troll under the bridge. But look, that's just my imagination. That's not really how it went. This isn't even the guy. I just found him on Google. But it's the first point that I want to make. In your home, you are the pantry steward and you're the chef. You have to requisition things from your cabinet and issue them to yourself for your own cooking. So how do you keep track like the pantry steward does? Do you know how much of something you use over a certain period of time? Ask yourself, if you use a lot of canned tomatoes, I want you to know right now, how many cans of tomatoes do you use a month? You don't know, right? How often do you purchase certain things? That's valuable information. More importantly, do you know the value of all the items that are in your kitchen cabinets right now? You would be shocked to find out how much money is sitting there right now. And these are the questions that I always had to answer every week to the general manager as the executive chef of a large hospital, because if I kept too much food on hand, my food cost would rise. The cost that it made, I'm buying food, but we're not selling food, so your food costs rise. And if I left too little food on hand, I might run out of food, and that was the worst thing. Or if I didn't run out, at least I'm limiting my options. Like when I was the executive chef at Rex Hospital, we made a lot of lasagna. And lasagna went across all kinds of menus and stuff. But I was always running out of lasagna noodles. So I used to have to go to the grocery store. And this is for a hospital to feed thousands of people. I would go to the grocery store and just wipe every lasagna noodle off the shelf into my cart. I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50 boxes of lasagna noodles that are way more expensive at the grocery store than they are if the truck comes to the back door. These are very important things. So it's this balance between usable inventory and unused inventory that makes the difference between profit and loss in a commercial restaurant. This is extremely important in a professional restaurant with a professional pantry. But what I want to do is share with you the professional pantry secrets that I teach in culinary school so you can use them in your own home. Now, some of them might seem a bit much for your own kitchen, but you might choose to take at least one idea, two ideas, and really take control of your food and money by employing some of the professional strategies that I'm going to talk to you about today. All right, so let's get started. Let's talk about the benefits of good pantry management. And first of all, it's obvious you have the items on hand so that you can cook by method. Right? You can come up, use one of the cooking methods, and then decide on the flavors that you want to apply to your creation, and then go get them out of your pantry. You decide how much to use. Good pantry management can reduce the number of trips you go to the market. It lowers your food bill by making less trips. The less trips you go to the market, the less money you spend. It's been proven. Or, if the market is far from you, it saves you time. It saves you gas by not having to drive back and forth. The third thing is it can narrow the scope of the items that you store. So you don't need 5 kinds of tomato sauce or 3 kinds of beans, whatever it might be. Thoughtful pantry building means that you don't have unused items that are taking up space. You keep only what you're going to use for the foreseeable future. And perhaps one of the most important of all, you know the value of all the food items on hand. You can't manage a food budget if you have hundreds of dollars sitting in your cabinets that you're not making meals from. When you have a good pantry, from that you can create a shopping list cycle. When you know how often you use each item, you know the purchase history. And there's one more thing I have to add because of recent events. You need an acceptable substitutions list or just an idea of what you might have to choose if you didn't have a pantry item or a par item that you wanted. I've been purchasing groceries online for more than a year now, and it's a game of trying to find an acceptable substitution if they don't have it. It's actually one of the superpowers of being a carefree cook, because if you identify the methods and get the best ingredients in cooking for that method, then it kind of doesn't matter what they substitute, right? But recipes don't ever tell us that. They always say that you can't substitute this or that. So anyway, nonetheless, the 5 benefits of managing your food vault, your home kitchen pantry, it can make your cooking easier, quicker, give you more variety, save you money as well when you manage your pantry. Okay, so how do we do this? How do we teach tomorrow's chefs to manage their pantry? Because it could mean their job fired if your food cost goes too high. So, how to choose your pantry items. In a commercial kitchen, the pantry is built from the recipes, from the menu, and the recipes are derived from the menu. So, the executive chef writes the menu, breaks it down into the ingredients that it's going to take to produce that menu, and then creates the inventory that he or she needs to get those ingredients into the menu. You get the idea? What are you going to cook? What does it take to cook that? How many of them do I need? And since I know my hospital menu, when I was working there weeks in advance, it was a week's cycle menu, I would just go down each standardized recipe's ingredients and make a shopping list, and there's the pantry list, right? But in your home kitchen, you're probably not writing a cycle menu for the next 5 weeks, right? Based on standardized recipes for your 60 cooks and chefs to duplicate based on the specifications that you and a nutritionist and dietitian laid out. Yeah, that doesn't happen in your own house. You're a carefree cook. You're making it up at the moment. You cook by method. You figure out what you got on hand. You cook it in a dependable and repeatable and reliable method. And this actually makes creating your pantry so much harder. It is easier to spend $1.5 million a month as an executive chef than it is to spend $100 a week at home. So how can you know the ingredients that you're going to need in 3 days, in 7 days, or 2 weeks from now? You don't. You don't know. You'll never know. You got to guess. Okay, so We all have a repertoire of foods that we cook again and again. We all do this. No matter the size of the variety of foods that you cook, you always come back to your favorites. You can't tell me that you cook 365 different meals every year. You don't. It's a food cycle. You have a food cycle. Everybody has a food cycle, whether you're aware of the food cycle or not. But if you got one, just like I had at the hospital, then you can start ordering like an executive chef with an eye on the budget without running out of what you need. So you're not looking for a cycle of the same exact dishes in your home, which is what we do commercially. But the fact that, let's say you're going to make rice a bunch of different ways. You make rice at least 2 or 3 times a week. Have rice in your pantry. That's an easy one, right? It's dry. It doesn't go bad. Stays forever. Worst enemy of rice is mice. Usually. But if you keep it in a plastic container they can't chew through and it's airtight, no problem. So maybe you like to make beans more than someone else. Maybe you like more stir fries than your neighbor. So there are certain items that you know that you use multiple times, your go-tos in your cooking cycle between market trips. Pasta, you keep dried pasta all the time. So if you're trying to really avoid exposure at the market, which I've been buying online, like I said, knowing the things that you need well in advance is a fantastic way to do that, not roam around the market all day long, picking up things and putting them back down, right? Spread your shopping trips out like an executive chef would. Bring them online when you know your pantry and your usage. So this is how you build your own personal pantry inventory, the items that you need, giving the consideration to the days in between the food deliveries or the shopping trips, okay? Big deal. How much you got and when am I going to get more stuff? That's very important. So at the hospital, and when I was a chef at the National Security Agency, where I was cooking for thousands, I had a clipboard of about 50 pages of items. And every Friday, I had to take inventory. I had to count each and every item. How many of each do I have on hand? How many will I use until I get the next truck? From that would come the order for the week. And really, it's a very simple formula. It's a very simple formula to have a PAR number. So let me explain this quickly. The PAR number is the amount of items that you always want to have on hand. PAR products are the top of importance PAR products, like lasagna noodles became at the hospital, right? The amount that you always want to have on hand, minus the inventory that you do have on hand. I already got 5 of them. I don't need 5 more. Plus any usage until you're going to go shopping or until the order arrives. This creates the shopping list. Whether it's a few bags in the trunk of your car or it's a 40-foot semi-trailer that's bringing 12 pallets of food into your production kitchen at the hospital, right? It's the same thing. I don't know. Stick with me, please. This is going to get better. I'm going to teach you some really cool things about inventory that you can put in your house. I know that this seems a little tough right now because you're thinking this is a bit much for my household, right? But it's going to make more sense in just a minute, and it's going to save you time and money because no matter how big or small the food operation is, all inventories get broken down into categories. And here's where you might want to write some of these down or come back to this, watch the replay video. So let me share the categories with you. If you start to put into category the things that you like to cook, you start with dry goods. These are the shelf-stable items I was talking about. Rice, dried beans, grains, cereals, dried fruits, nuts, pasta, lentils, peas, dried peas, things like that, dried herbs, dried spices. Dry goods also includes anything from the bake shop, the flour, the sugar, the baking soda, cornstarch, cocoa, dry yeast, NFDM, powdered milk. These are things that are so great to store because they don't go bad and they're generally cheap. We don't have dried lobster or caviar, you know? So these are things you can stock up on because you're always going to use them. They last a long time and they don't cost a lot of money. The next are canned goods. And this is relatively self-explanatory. These are things in a can or a jar. Canned vegetables, fruits, soups, canned meats, tuna, canned carton broths, juices. Again, long shelf life on these things, so you can keep those a little longer in inventory. Higher PAR numbers on those. Then you've got fats, oils, and flavorings. These are all your oils, honey, vinegars, syrups, condiments, jellies, sauces. They go bad a little bit more quickly than dry goods and canned goods, so we keep less of these on hand. Also, a lot of times they take up very valuable refrigerator space, so less of them on hand as well. And then lastly, refrigerated items, fresh produce, fruits and vegetables, eggs, dairy, fresh meats, butter, cream, things like that. These are the things that are the most perishable. And if your electricity goes out, these are the things that are spoiled. So refrigerated items should always be the lowest inventory, and they should be turned over the most quickly. I'm going to explain turns in just a minute. Turning over. That's actually really cool. Stick around for learning about inventory turns. The last one actually is frozen items. Your meats, your proteins, bread dough, frozen vegetables, frozen fruits. They also have a long shelf life, but they deteriorate in the freezer. As the freezer goes through defrost cycles, you get freezer burn and stuff like that. And again, if you lose electricity, they're all shot. So from these 5 categories, you start to build your pantry list. And here's how you do it. Here's how I would recommend. Go through your kitchen right now. Write down every single thing that's in your cabinets, your refrigerator, your freezer. You got time to do this lately. Maybe better to stay inside, right? So go through, write down everything that you have, and then assign a category to each one of them, the categories that I just told you about. Then review that list and eliminate anything that's been there for a long time. It's not in your cycle. If you just have a can of sardines and you're never going to eat sardines, give it to the food pantry. They probably don't want it either, but you can give it to them anyway. Eliminate from the list anything you don't use and eliminate it from your pantry as well, because you're just going to look at it as a par item again. Then add the items that you do want to include in your pantry in the future. And this is your pantry list. It's that easy. Take inventory, assign them to categories, review and eliminate, and add new. So it's the items that you're currently cooking with and the ones that you will be cooking with in the future. You can review this list every month, every few months, every year if you want, and eliminate the items that you used to buy, add the new ones that you do buy. So it's a continual process that I did weekly for $250,000 worth of food. And certainly, if I could do it weekly, you can do it once or twice a year and keep your pantry lean and mean and be generous with donations of things that you're not going to use. Everybody goes through food trends in their cooking. Maybe you just figured out how to make the best beef stroganoff ever, and you find yourself making it 2 or 3 times a month, and your pantry has those egg noodles all the time and sour cream, but then you get kind of burned out on it, and you don't like beef stroganoff anymore, and you discover something new. You start cooking Thai food, and you scratch off that sour cream. Coconut milk is what you need in the pantry now, and sriracha sauce and peanut butter, and there's no need to keep those egg noodles around if you're not making stroganoff anymore, so scratch them off the inventory. You get it? Here's the big idea. Here's the payoff. The big idea that I teach in culinary school. And in culinary school, this class is called Purchasing, Food Cost, and Inventory Management. I've taught it 20 times maybe. It's a 50-hour class. 50 hours talking about the pantry. Can you imagine? Because the main idea in managing a restaurant or a food establishment is this one thought. I'm going to give you the one thought that I drill into my students' heads all the time, and it's this. In the back door, through the kitchen, out the front door as soon as possible. Remember that. In the back door, through the kitchen, out the front door as quickly as possible. And what this means is that anything I purchase as a chef or as a homeowner, anything you purchase has got to get cooked and turned into money as fast as possible, or I won't have money to buy more food with. You get the idea? In the back door, into the chef's hands, through the cash register is probably a better way to say it, because if I buy food and I put it on the shelf and I don't cook with it, it costs me money and it costs me opportunity. The next week I go buy more food, I put it on the shelf without turning it into a meal and selling it. And if I do this week after week, I've got a huge pantry and no sales to show for the food I've been buying. You get the idea? And I'm probably out of an executive chef job because I would be horrible if I did this. I remember one time I was hired as a consultant. There was this cafeteria in a college, I think it was, that its food cost was terrible. And I opened the freezer. There must have been $100,000 worth of food in the freezer. Bits of beef tenderloin, scallops here from a year ago. It was like, there you go. In about 10 minutes, I solved their problem and sent them a hefty bill. So look, are you doing this? Do you have a huge pantry but few meals to show from the items that are in your pantry? Good pantry management does not mean being a hoarder, storing every possible food item in case you might ever need it. Those are the things that you never need. Just because they're on sale, you're still not going to need it. Those are the things that when you were cooking with recipes, the recipe commanded you to buy 2 years ago and you still got it because the recipe told you to do so. A good pantry has the items that you consistently use and that you will use in the future or you want to use really soon. It is not a museum of food items that were on sale. So here it is, the number that an executive chef gets judged by on their appraisal, their yearly interview. It's called inventory turns. And briefly, because we don't have 50 hours today, actually we're almost out of time, turns is the number derived by dividing the value of the inventory by the sales dollar for that period. So the idea is you want to turn your inventory over as quickly as possible. So a turn number is higher when you're turning the food into money or meals, unless you're charging your family for your cooking, which I do recommend. But you're turning it over. A lower inventory turn means you're storing too much food and you're not selling it or serving it. And the concept here can be applied to your home kitchen in a very advanced way that you may or may not want to put into use. I don't know. You might just want to keep the ideas in your head and just be aware of the concepts as you get ready to start. The idea of in the back door, through the kitchen, and onto the table as quickly as possible. Don't store food unless you have to because it's stored money as well. Ultimately, my suggestion is make yourself a spreadsheet. If you're watching me today, you might be kind of computer savvy. Create a sheet of all the pantry items and their costs. Add the pantry items to the sheet, transfer the cost of each item after the register receipt, right? Then multiply the item by the number of the items that you have. So a jar of tomato sauce at $2.79, and you got one of them, you got $2.79 worth of tomato sauce. If you have half a jar in your refrigerator, give it a 0.5, and you got another $1.39 worth of tomato sauce. If you take the time to do this, and I mean just even half the food that you have, you are going to be shocked. This is the other side of the food vault. It's your frozen money that's sitting there. So go ahead, add up the value of everything you currently have in your pantry, and you will be shocked how much frozen money you have. Could you use this money for something else? Probably. So turn the stuff over more quickly. Start to develop a good pantry plan and start to turn your money into food as quickly as you possibly can. All right, let's go to, there we go. Hey, it's the What Am I for today. What is it? A plum and an apricot? When you put those together, it's called a pluot. A pluot. If you've never had a pluot, they're actually very good. So look, before we go back to our kitchens and start scrutinizing all our pantry items and things like that, just be aware of it. You don't have to be an executive chef to do this, but be aware of the relationship between your food, your time, and your money that you're locking up. And if you know somebody who has way too much frozen money in their pantry, please share this video with them. Give them a thumbs up, a hearts, a love, a like, something, so Facebook knows it's a cool video too. And if you'd like to know the 5 simple steps that I use to keep the most nutritious, delicious food on my menu, along with how to avoid the 3 mistakes everybody makes when selecting fresh ingredients. When your fresh ingredients spoil, you never got a chance to even cook with them and they're dead. How to choose the freshest items at the market. how to protect your investment from spoilage, how to use herbs and spices to create flavor profiles. It's all in my latest free class. You have got to register for how to use fresh seasonal ingredients to create fast, nutritious meals in 5 simple steps. And all you got to do for the free class is go to webcookingclasses.com/seasonal. Hey, thanks so much for being with me today, everyone. That was a drill down today, wasn't it? That was kind of tough. That was a real insight to culinary school, but I hope it helps you in some regard. Until next Tuesday, where we take even more steps toward breaking the Carefree Cook's Code, this is Chef Todd Moore reminding you that there's a method to your organized cooking success. Bye, everyone.